We're off to a roaring start here. We've got, as always, some last-minute changes and keeping things exciting. So my name is Gina. I'm going to be moderating this session. I'm with the team at CAEH. I joined a few weeks ago, so we're in the deep end. This is me treading water, doing my best. But we're going to get started in a moment. We have a bit of a tighter schedule than planned this morning because we've had some folks join this session. So we're going to keep questions until the end. I'll come around with a mic. So if you have questions, raise your hand and I'll make sure to get to you. And just make sure you're addressing the question to the person you want to ask it to, and then we can make sure that they know. This session has live simultaneous interpretation, so that's happening in the back. So if you need a headset, you haven't got one yet, you can get those out front. I believe near the plenary there should be a space for headsets for you to get. Otherwise, this is a bilingual presentation, so there will be presentations in both English and French. If you have questions in French, no problem. I'll do my best to make sure that, speakers who don't understand French can get those questions as well. So I'm going to begin by acknowledging that this conference where we're all gathered is taking place on unceded Indigenous lands. I myself come from Shabuktuk, Halifax, which is on the traditional and the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. Here today, we are on the lands that belong to the Kanien'kehá:ka nation, and it's recognized as the custodians of the lands and the waters that we gather on today. So Ojibwe, or Montreal, as it's colonially known, is historically a gathering place for many First Nations communities. And today it's, as you know, home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. And we respect the continued traditions with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples from coast to coast to coast. So as I said, my name is Gina. Pronouns are she, her. I'm with the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness. Today's session is going to be a fantastic one, or this morning's session. We're joined by a number of excellent folks. I'm not going to introduce everyone at once. I'll do it one by one. But first up, we have Georges Oana and Marie Eniger of Mission Old Brewery. And we're going to hear about Projet Ancrage. So I'm just going to hand it over to you two to get started. And today's session, of course, this is prevention and rapid rehousing for seniors, which is a rapidly growing population of homelessness folks, or folks experiencing homelessness, rather. So over to you two to kick it off.
Merci. Bonjour, je vais juste tester, c'est bon. Bonjour, donc enchantée, je suis Marie Héninger, directrice adjointe de liaison pour le service de prévention pour la mission Old Brewery. Merci beaucoup de votre présence et votre écoute. Donc, je vais vous présenter le programme Ancrage qui concerne donc les personnes aînées et la prévention de l'itinérance. Pour introduire mon propos, je vais déjà commencer par quelques constats concernant les aînés, notamment au sujet de leur vulnérabilité. C'est certain qu'une personne aînée qui se retrouve en situation d'itinérance ou dans la rue va avoir le corps et l'esprit qui va s'abîmer plus rapidement. Ils vivent aussi de multiples vulnérabilités comme l'isolement, l'agisme, des problèmes de santé et des pertes cognitives. En période de crise du logement, comme on le sait à Montréal, avec la hausse des prix du loyer comme dans d'autres villes canadiennes, ils sont plus souvent victimes de précarité financière et subissent plus souvent des évictions. Enfin, on peut constater la fermeture de nombreuses RPA, résidences pour aînés. Si on prend les chiffres, il y a eu un dénombrement en 2015 qui a fait état que 41% des personnes en situation d'itinérance avaient 50 ans et plus. Ça va être intéressant de voir, avec le dénombrement qui a eu lieu donc en 2025, quels vont être ces chiffres aujourd'hui. Sur ces 41%, 54% ont passé l'année entière en situation d'itinérance. Donc ça montre que ce n'est pas une situation seulement situationnelle, mais bien un état qui peut s'ancrer dans le temps, quitte à devenir de l'itinérance chronique pour cette population. Je vais vous parler un petit peu du service de prévention, mais je vais faire un historique par rapport à l'organisme donc OBM, donc qui existe depuis 1889, avec la création d'un refuge pour hommes en 1920, l'ouverture d'un premier pavillon de logement communautaire en 2006 et la création du service de prévention en 2021. Donc, la mission Albury, OBM, c'est quoi? Comme vous le voyez, ce sont ces 3 spectres, ces 3 services qui sont entremêlés et interconnectés. Tout d'abord, le service de prévention, que je vais détailler un peu plus tard, donc créé en 2021. Le service, bien sûr, des urgences, avec des hébergements d'urgence, donc un accueil 24 heures sur 24 et 7 jours sur 7. Un service d'hébergement d'urgence pour femmes et aussi pour hommes, avec un principe d'accueil universel. On a enfin le service des relogements, donc avec mes collègues du service soutien en logement, qui gère un peu plus de 500 unités immobilières. Donc voilà, ces 3 spectres, ces 3 sphères sont connectées avec un objectif qui est le même, la santé urbaine et la réaffiliation durable. À propos du service de prévention, donc comme je l'ai dit, il a été créé en 2021, donc pendant la Covid, avec un constat clair que traiter l'itinérance ne suffit plus. Il faut prévenir, comme le dit l'adage, mieux vaut prévenir que guérir. La première référence a été reçue en février 2022 et en août 2022 a été créé le programme Passerelle avec l'OMHM, l'Office municipal d'habitation de Montréal. C'est un de nos programmes phares avec un partenaire important dont Georges Oana va pouvoir vous détailler un petit peu le principe un peu plus tard, mais ça concerne les personnes qui sont évincées et logées à l'hôtel par la ville. En avril 2023, donc sans référence reçue, puis en novembre 2023, création du projet Porte-Clés, toujours avec le même partenaire, donc l'OMHM, qui concerne cette fois-ci la prévention des évictions dans les HLM, habitations à loyer modique. En octobre 2024, c'est la création du programme Ancrage. Donc ce programme a 1 an aujourd'hui, donc ça va être intéressant avec vous de voir où est-ce qu'on en est au point de vue des résultats de ce programme. Et puis récemment, on a pu fêter au sein de l'équipe 500 solutions trouvées pour les personnes. Je vais maintenant céder la parole au directeur du service et mon collègue Georges Oana qui va nous parler de la méthodologie d'intervention.
Il faut juste appuyer ici. Donc bonjour, welcome to Montreal, bienvenue à Montréal. C'est la plus belle ville au Canada. Et go Blue Jays. Donc, yes. Donc, on est dans le cœur, si vous voulez, de la prévention à la mission Albury. C'est le courtage social en prévention, en anglais, brokering. L'objectif, c'est de vraiment être capable de devenir un intermédiaire, un facilitateur, un expert et un négociant pour être capable de travailler 2 dynamiques qui sont complètement différentes. Donc, d'un côté, ce que vous avez, c'est les promoteurs de l'itinérance. Vous pouvez les lire assez rapidement, vous les connaissez tous, vous travaillez avec. Et de l'autre côté, vous les connaissez tous, c'est le logement social, logement transitoire, toute forme de logement, même le logement privé, qui nous permet de trouver des solutions. Le cœur de notre intervention, c'est nos courtiers, c'est nos intervenants. Donc à travers un arrimage, en anglais matchmakers, ce qu'on essaie de faire, c'est bien identifier la personne et bien identifier le logement et de faire des matchs le plus rapidement possible. Donc le facteur de réactivité est très important et le facteur de travailler de façon proactive. 2 types d'interventions qu'on a développées au courant des 4 dernières années. Comme l'a mentionné Marie et comme va le mentionner la Maison du Père, on existe depuis longtemps, mais le service de prévention existe uniquement depuis 4 ans. Et on a été capable de faire pas mal dans l'espace des 4 dernières années. 2 types d'interventions que vont vous sembler étranges, mais en même temps très intéressantes, j'espère. D'un côté, le courtage, donc travailler vraiment cette relation, cet arrimage, ce matchmaking qu'on peut faire entre les différentes réalités, la personne qui est à la recherche et un logement qui l'attend. Mais de l'autre côté, quand il n'y a plus de logement à Montréal, qu'est-ce qu'on fait? Chercher à préserver le logement. Donc, il y a une première dynamique qui est le courtage. On va avoir des projets comme Passerelle qu'on a développé avec l'Office municipal d'habitation de Montréal. Après l'ombre, on a travaillé avec différents acteurs du milieu carcéral, où il y a des enjeux systémiques au niveau de l'itinérance, et d'autres projets du même gabarit pour être capable d'amener ces individus et de court-circuiter l'itinérance ou le secteur de l'itinérance pour les amener directement vers du logement. L'autre projet, tout petit projet, cute, qui s'appelle Porte-Clés. Son objectif, c'est d'identifier des personnes qui sont à l'intérieur des HLM et de les maintenir en logement. Donc travailler avec eux, les accompagner, consolider la relation avec les propriétaires et partenaires. Différents partenaires, je salue bien sûr tous les partenaires qui sont déjà ici dans la salle, mais l'objectif c'était de vous donner une perspective. En date d'aujourd'hui, on a autour de 38 ententes que nous avons signées et à peu près une quinzaine avec qui on a été en mesure de développer des relations tacites. L'objectif, c'est d'être rapide. Dès qu'on est capable d'identifier la personne le plus tôt possible à l'intérieur de sa trajectoire, être capable de trouver, bien sûr, une personne, une organisation qui sera capable de prendre le dossier. La moyenne, si vous voulez, parce qu'on travaille avec Power BI depuis le début, c'est entre 63 et 67 jours avant de définir une solution. Le plus tôt qu'on est en mesure d'identifier la personne, d'être capable de ne pas attendre le point de bascule, le mieux nous sommes habilités à venir interagir avec la personne et l'amener vers autre chose. Quelques résultats, parce qu'il faut toujours parler de résultats. La reddition de comptes. En date d'aujourd'hui, on tourne autour de 1500 référencements autour de la question du risque de l'itinérance simplement à l'intérieur de notre service. Ça veut dire à peu près 44% de personnes qui se retrouvent dans notre service avec qui on a été capable d'offrir des solutions salubres et sécuritaires. C'est 875 hommes, 389 femmes, et c'est des fois des mois qui sont assez difficiles avec presque 75 personnes qui frappent à nos portes. Ça a été le cas au mois de février 2025.
Alors, pour détailler maintenant donc, le sujet d'aujourd'hui, le programme Ancrage. Ce programme a été entièrement financé par un généreux don de la fondation Mirella et Lino Saputo. Pour la clientèle, en fait, les critères, ce sont assez simples. C'est toute personne de 50 ans et plus à risque imminent d'itinérance. Donc, toute personne dans cette situation peut nous faire une référence. Il n'y a pas besoin d'avoir un référent comme une travailleuse ou un travailleur social. La personne peut tout à fait candidater d'elle-même. Donc, l'objectif, c'est vraiment de les identifier, ces personnes-là. Et là, deux solutions, donc comme l'a présenté Georges tout à l'heure, soit essayer de maintenir le logement en péril avec l'accompagnement résidentiel préventif, soit essayer d'orienter la personne dans un autre logement adapté à sa situation, donc avec le courtage social en prévention. Donc voilà, l'approche, c'est vraiment créer une équipe dédiée à la population vieillissante. On a la chance de travailler avec une coordonnatrice de programme et 2 intervenants au suivi psychosocial. Développer vraiment une expertise dans l'accompagnement des personnes aînées à risque d'itinérance avec tous les enjeux que ça comporte, notamment gérontologiques et les enjeux par rapport à l'agisme. Et développer, bien sûr, de nouveaux partenariats de repérage et de relogement. Donc l'accompagnement, il est vraiment individualisé. C'est vraiment donc accompagner les personnes dans des démarches de logement et résoudre leurs problématiques psychosociales. Donc vraiment agir aussi en tant que courtier social en prévention, donc toujours dans cette recherche de logement stable et sécuritaire. Et si ce n'est pas possible, si la personne ne peut être relogée pour x, y raison, c'est bien sûr dirigé vers une ressource en itinérance adaptée à ses besoins. Je vais un peu plus vite parce que je vois que le temps file. Alors, pour vous parler de chiffres et de résultats, c'est vrai que depuis le début du programme, donc ça fait 1 an, comme je le disais, on a vraiment consigné les statistiques, les données, pour avoir un portrait socio-démographique des personnes. Donc, qui sont ces personnes qu'on accompagne et qui sont à risque d'itinérance et quels sont les résultats qu'on a obtenus. On a, depuis 1 an, reçu 320 références. Et parmi ces personnes, on a réussi à trouver des solutions de logement pour 51% des personnes, ce qui correspond à 127 individus. Donc c'est presque 1 personne sur 2 qu'on accompagne pour qui on arrive à trouver une solution de logement. Les 49 autres %, c'est important de préciser que ce n'est pas forcément des personnes qui se sont retrouvées à la rue ou dans un hébergement d'urgence. Souvent, c'est des personnes pour qui on n'a plus de nouvelles. c'est-à-dire qu'elles ne nous répondent plus ou elles ne souhaitent plus notre accompagnement. Et parfois, elles vont pouvoir avoir trouvé une solution, mais c'est juste qu'on ne le sait pas. Actuellement, il y a encore 73 personnes qui sont suivies actuellement par le service. Comme je le disais, il y a 2 intervenants. Ils ont un caseload de 35 personnes qu'ils accompagnent. Les données démographiques, on constate une majorité d'hommes, 232 pour 87 femmes. Pour l'âge, la majorité, c'est entre 50 et 70 ans, mais il faut quand même constater qu'on a eu quelques personnes âgées de 80 ans et plus, avec tous les enjeux que ça signifie en termes de santé. La raison du risque d'itinérance, de toute façon, vous aurez accès bien sûr au PowerPoint si les chiffres vous intéressent. La majorité, ça reste le non-paiement de loyer. Le non-paiement de loyer, comme je le disais avant, avec la crise du logement à Montréal, c'est sûr que c'est une part très importante. En termes de solutions trouvées, donc les 127, on les a également détaillées. On peut constater que la majorité, c'est les logements communautaires avec suivi psychosocial, donc d'où l'intérêt de nos partenariats. Et en deuxième position viennent quand même les logements privés, avec tous les enjeux qu'on a actuellement en termes d'abordabilité et de critères. Ça reste quand même une solution qui est importante. Donc vraiment, comme dit, les chiffres seront accessibles si vous voulez plus de détails. Je relaisse rapidement la parole à mon collègue.
Donc c'est la mode, mais je vais vous parler de différents éléments que vous connaissez déjà en lien avec une population de 50 ans et plus. Il y a beaucoup plus de détérioration au niveau du système de santé et de la capacité de leur venir en aide. Donc des termes comme agisme, risque d'éviction, ségrégation, gentrification, jeunification des quartiers. Énormément de villes au Québec, mais aussi au Canada, vont vivre cette réalité. Il y a des manquements évidents au niveau des revenus et de la capacité du gouvernement de venir en aide au niveau d'une population qui vieillit et la crise du logement qui rend la situation insupportable. Notre objectif au courant des 5 prochaines années, c'est d'être capable de rejoindre 750 personnes aînées et de les placer à l'intérieur d'un contexte sûr qui a une capacité de permanence. On ne cherche pas du transitoire, mais on cherche du logement où la personne peut poser ses valises. Un cas de figure, mais je vais passer en 10 secondes. C'est le cas de Lucie, vous pouvez le lire pendant que je vous parle. On retrouve un nombre très important de femmes vieillissantes, veuves, qui vont perdre un revenu et qui vont se retrouver dans une situation où ils ne peuvent plus vivre à titre de locataire parce qu'il y a une pression croissante au niveau du loyer. Donc on se retrouve souvent avec des personnes qui sont seules et leur seul référent va être une TS ou au contraire un organisme communautaire. Maintenant, la dernière partie, mais qui est la plus importante parce qu'elle ressemble beaucoup à ce qu'on fait au quotidien, c'est vraiment les étapes. Donc la prise de contact, on va aller dans un café Tim Hortons, on ne va pas l'amener dans notre organisme, on va prendre un café pour être capable de discuter. Explication du programme, évaluation des besoins. Donc on va beaucoup travailler une photo, un Polaroid, si vous voulez, de la situation en lien avec la personne. Et là, tout de suite, on commence la recherche. Donc cellulaire, courriel, texto, rencontre, accompagnement. On va travailler énormément la médiation avec ces personnes pour être capable d'en voir un avantage. Au lieu de simplement de dire « mais là, tu peux pas », on va voir qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire avec eux. Juste pour finir, au courant des dernières années, encore une fois, avec l'aide de la Fondation Saputo, nous avons été capables d'ouvrir dans le quartier de Saint-Michel une instance qui va offrir pour des personnes de 50 ans et plus du logement. Donc faire de la prévention sans avoir du logement, c'est un non-lieu. Donc il faut les deux en même temps. Bonne journée. Ah, voilà. Il y a toujours le courriel où vous pouvez nous rejoindre ou sinon on est là pendant l'ensemble de la conférence. On serait très content de discuter de la prévention et de tout. Merci.
That was a beautiful exercise in speaking very quickly. But it does make it challenging for our interpreters and the folks who rely on them. So if possible, and I understand, like, we just saw so much work distilled into, 20 minutes? It's not fair. But at the same time, we have about an hour left. So for speakers, if if you can cut content rather than speed up, just so folks can hear and make sure that we get the interpretation that we need. And just to flag, we had the subtitles and now they're not there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a function of speaking too quickly? No? We'll get that resolved. So next up, first of all, thank you so much, Georges and Marie. We learned so much. We don't have time to go through the bios, but if you haven't downloaded the app already, I invite you to do that, and you can just search by name to find all the info you need on our speakers. Next up, we have Jaël and Dwayne du Maison du Père, who are going to speak to us about their work in favoriser la stabilité résidentielle des aînés à travers le développement de milieux de vie adaptés. And they're going to say it much better than that. So over to you two. And so keep an eye out for the 15-minute mark, which just means a couple more minutes.
Bon, bonjour tout le monde. Alors, on va faire ça rapidement, efficacement et avec beaucoup de cœur. Ça ressemble à la Maison du Père, donc on va être bon. Alors, pour vous dire, la Maison du Père, nous, comme on l'a dit précédemment, donc nous, on a été créé en 69 et qu'on a 56 ans aujourd'hui. Et ce qu'on vient vous présenter, c'est vraiment un organisme qui a pour mission de favoriser la stabilité résidentielle et de l'offrir au plus grand nombre avec des profils très divers. Pour ce faire, on a décidé de créer et de consolider un continuum de services cliniques qui prend en compte, dans cette mission de stabilité résidentielle, de prévenir la perte de logement. Donc, avec un service de prévention qui, Dwayne vous dira depuis quand il existe, hein, Dwayne? Et ensuite, on a donc tout un service de logement transitoire qui permet justement au continuum d'aller chercher les personnes qui sont déjà en situation d'itinérance, mais qui ont besoin de développer ou de retrouver certains acquis pour aller vers le logement permanent. On a aussi donc la plus grande offre, ce sont des offres de stabilité long terme, de stabilité résidentielle long terme, où justement on va retrouver du logement dans du parc, dans le marché privé locatif. On va retrouver des bâtiments en approche soutien communautaire et notre résidence pour personnes âgées, qui est la seule qui accueille uniquement des personnes qui ont un passé d'itinérance. Donc, c'est une de nos belles innovations. Et concernant la porte d'entrée, la plus grande porte d'entrée de la maison, qui sont les hébergements d'urgence, vous allez voir, on a dans le fond 106 places, 30 places, ce qui nous fait un 136 places en hébergement d'urgence, mais avec un 30 places spécifique santé physique, qui s'adresse principalement justement à ces aînés qui arrivent avec une santé très hypothéquée et un vieillissement accéléré. Donc, sur l'ensemble du continuum, ce qu'on offre, c'est 667 solutions d'hébergement et de solutions. Et le 307 que vous voyez en prévention, ça, c'est quand même un chiffre à retenir. C'est qu'en un an, c'est le nombre de demandes qu'on a reçues du 1er septembre 2024 au 1er septembre 2025. C'est toutes ces personnes qui sont à risque d'itinérance et pour lesquelles on va travailler en amont. Donc, on va vous parler juste de la résidence pour personnes aînées et puis cet aspect plus prévention des aînés. Mais je vous inviterai à aller voir un atelier un peu plus tard qui nous parle de notre banque d'aide au loyer, qui est quand même en soi une belle innovation. Alors, concernant le plan, dans le fond, la prévention de l'itinérance qui touche les aînés, on va à travers l'exemple de la résidence JA de Sèvres, on va toucher à tout ce qui est important au niveau de la santé physique, tout ce qui est important au niveau du développement de l'autonomie, de la motricité, de l'autonomie financière aussi. Donc, c'est tous ces aspects-là qu'on va voir tout à l'heure avec Dwayne. Les facteurs de risque qu'on a, nous, remarqués au niveau de la précarité des aînés, l'un des plus gros, c'est cette absence de proches aidants, qui sont pour des raisons multiples, soit fatigués ou il y a une rupture familiale, mais qui peuvent plus être le filet social de la personne. On a également les problèmes de santé. Et à travers notre accès santé, les problèmes de santé qui ressortent le plus, c'est les plaies, les amputations, toute la question aussi de l'oncologie. Et c'est assez difficile de relocaliser de façon permanente quelqu'un qui a besoin d'autant de soins. Ensuite, on a les revenus qui sont plus à la hauteur du marché immobilier, du marché locatif. Là. Ça augmente pas aussi vite. Et la recrudescence des rénovictions. Donc, les aînés sont très fragiles face à la stabilité résidentielle. Nous, ce qu'on s'est dit, c'est qu'on doit agir sur 3 gros axes. Et l'un des premiers qui est un peu valable pour toutes les personnes qui sont vulnérables face au logement, c'est multiplier les offres de logements abordables. Faire en sorte que nos initiatives mettent un peu un contre-pouvoir face à la financiarisation des logements pour que tous ces aînés et toutes les personnes qui sont à faible revenu puissent rester dans des logements décents au niveau du coût. Et les soins médicaux. On a une équipe pluridisciplinaire à Maison du Père, donc on a nos infirmiers, on a nos proposés aux bénéficiaires, en plus de tous les travailleurs sociaux et intervenants psychosociaux. Et l'autre, c'est le soutien communautaire. Mais en autre mot, c'est plutôt la vie communautaire. Un aîné isolé est un aîné qui va mourir très vite et qui va mourir seul. Donc on travaille énormément sur la vie communautaire aussi. Fait que je vais laisser la parole à Dwayne.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to change it up, speak in English, and so if I don't have very much opportunity to speak in English, I'll take it when I can. And my name is Dwayne Mansfeld. Since the last 2 weeks, I am the Deputy Director of the Continuum of Clinical Services at the Maison de Père. It's been only 2 weeks. For the Thank you. And for the past 4 years, though, I have been coordinator of the prevention services at Maison de Père. The idea of prevention services at Maison de Père is it's very simple. It's people are better served at home. So no matter who it is, no matter what, people are better served at home. So with that in mind, the prevention services, one thing we noticed at Maison de Père is when we had new people coming into Maison de Père, clients that we've never seen before at Maison de Père. At one point, we had 60 to 70 new people a month at Maison de Père in our services. And we found that quite a huge number. We tried to meet as many as possible. And when we met with them, we realized that there is a huge percentage of people coming in to us for the first time kids should never have put foot in our services. And so there was a whole lot of services that should have been put into place before they came and stuff to us. So we worked with a team to see, okay, how can we get people back into the right type of services and out of the homelessness network kind of thing. And so the prevention services began, and that's what we had in mind. As we were working with our partners, with the health and social services, with hospitals, with the police, we started realizing different problematics that came up more and more time. And one of them was people that were able to afford an apartment before, situations arrived that an apartment that was affordable for them before is no longer affordable. And so they weren't able to pay their rent. There were exceptional circumstances that arrived that made it that they were going before the rental board and losing their apartments because of non-payment of rent. For that reason, we put into place a rental bank. So we give loans to people, low interest loans that we pay to the owners of the landlords. And we pay off the debts of people to keep them in their apartments. Because like I said, people are better served to be at home. And stuff. So so far this year, we've had 161 demands for our rental bank. We were able to work with 91 different households. And with that, we started off with $145,000 for loans. And so with $145,000 for loans, we were able to give $220,000 worth of loans. Why in 1 year that it was such a big difference? Because people pay back their loans. When people start with us, that we pay off their landlord. They become our participant in our program, but once they start paying off their loan, they become our partner in the program. Because every dollar they pay back, we're able to give to somebody else that finds in the exact same situation that they were found. And that really motivates our participants to want to pay back, to want to give back, because they understand what it's like to feel that stress of almost losing your place where you stay. So we had also another situation that we found out was because certain circumstances of losing revenue, the people had apartments that were affordable apartments. In Montreal, an affordable 3.5 for a one-bedroom apartment is $1,100 a month. And so we had people that had 3.5s for $750, $800. The average rental that we have is $700, $800. They're very affordable because of circumstances that arrive. They lose their revenue. They're not able to afford whatever's been affordable. So instead of losing that affordable housing, we worked with the OMHM to develop rent subsidies to keep people in their apartments where they only have to pay 25% of their revenue, and the OMHM gives to the owner the rest of the money for paying the rent to be able to keep them in. I want to give just some case studies here quickly. We have Arthur, which you all know it's not his real name. Arthur and stuff was referred to us and stuff because his building needed to be taken down. It was such unlivable. They were going to tear down the building. But Arthur was living for many, many years in his apartment in that building. 85 years old. He had a social work team that was following him. We came in, we have our intervenant workers, which Joseph is right there. We have our intervenant workers that went to visit Arthur, evaluate his case. And Arthur wanted to stay autonomous. He didn't want to get into a residence. He wanted to have his own place. We had some questions about his health. But from his social work team were telling us, no, he should be able to be autonomous. So we weren't too sure, but we were able to place him in one of our autonomous studios at Maison de Père, where he's totally autonomous, but we have intervenants that are there to keep an eye on him. While he was staying in our place, we saw that his health was degrading. We arranged to bring him into the hospital to get him checked up. He was hospitalized for a while. All the while he was hospitalized, the doctors, nurses said, no, he can't return. He's not able to be autonomous anymore. We tried to find a different living situation, and then unfortunately, Arthur passed away in the hospital and stuff while he was hospitalized. And another example is Sarah. Sarah was referred to us by Option Consommateur, which is an organization that helps people in financial crises here in Montreal. And so it's funny, when we started our program, our intervenant workers would come to me and say, oh, Dwayne, they don't qualify for our program because of this reason. They don't qualify because of this reason. I got so tired of that. And stuff that I said, look, I don't want you to tell me anymore how people don't qualify. I want to tell you what we need to do that they will qualify. And stuff. And with that attitude, we were able to take cases that, like Sarah, that had many different debts and many different levels. We consolidated her debt with us. We paid it off. And now Sarah is slowly paying off. We have 5 years that she can pay off her debt slowly with us, and that she and that way she's able to stay in her apartment. You know, like I said, the people are not better served, except they're most better served in their own home. And stuff. But when times do come that people need to be better taken care of, need to have better supports, better stuff, we have our old age residents. And I'm sorry, it's not the right term in English, but I work in French. But we have our old age residents in Maison de Père that we've had since 1988. It started off with 48 rooms in the old port. We moved it up, and it's now up to 91 rooms, 87. We're planning 4 more, and stuff coming up. And it's a complete service and stuff. They have nurses, intervention workers, nursing aides, and the idea is to have an affordable housing unit with multiple services where the people feel at home. They're not in their own home, but we're going to make it that they feel at home. So one of the most important parts of that is our recreational intervenants. Our intervenants that work with them, not to have just a housing, but that it makes a place to live. It makes it a home. So they work and stuff. They work y'all know, you're on the street, you're thinking about survival all the time. You lose what you're passionate about. You lose the things that interest you. We want at Maison de Père to help our residents regain that. Regain the passion, regain what they like to do, and build that up. It's more than just a place to live, it becomes a home. And so just some statistics that we see. The top graph is just the amount of people that need physical health services. Most of our people in our residence have been on the streets for 3 years and more, and have very low sources of revenue. Yeah. And I'll leave. C'est moi? Non, c'est toi.
Ok, c'est moi. Donc, on va faire ça rapidement. Donc, comme vous voyez, dans le fond, on a parlé un petit peu plus tôt sur quoi on mise pour vraiment avoir une stabilité résidentielle chez les aînés, soit à risque ou en situation d'itinérance. C'est vraiment nos 4 axes. Et un des axes qu'on a ajouté, c'est l'autonomie préservée. Et il passe par des actions qu'on voit pas souvent, qui sont la récréologie. Je vais passer un peu vite pour vous montrer rapidement. C'est quoi la récréologie? C'est que pour créer une vie communautaire, ça nous prend des récréologues. À même l'équipe de la Maison du Père, on a des récréologues qui sont là pour créer cette vie communautaire. Donc, on va offrir plusieurs activités, dont la pêche sur glace. Je suis jamais allée, je pense pas que j'irai, mais ils aiment ça. Et ça fonctionne très bien. Donc, sur un mois donné, on peut avoir facilement 10 à 12 activités pendant le mois pour vraiment briser l'isolement. Parce que c'est pas parce qu'on est dans un organisme communautaire qu'on n'est pas isolé. Ça prend plus que ça. Donc, je vais avancer pour laisser la place à nos partenaires. Dans le fond, une autre chose qu'on veut viser aussi, c'est toute l'inclusion sociale. Parce que l'idée, c'est pas de ghettoiser les aînés les plus vulnérables. Ils doivent faire partie de l'habitat. Ils sont des citoyens comme les autres. Et la déstigmatisation commence jour 1. Donc, on a eu un projet, justement, de maison en chanson où une partie de nos résidents, qui sont, notre moyenne d'âge dépasse les 60 ans, là, on s'entend, mais qui viennent jouer avec leur talent. Et à chaque événement dans le quartier de Ville-Marie, ben, ils vont jouer, là, c'était au hockey, et ils vont faire une prestation devant monsieur, madame, tout le monde, parce qu'ils sont des habitants comme les autres. Donc, en conclusion, pour la mise en œuvre, je vais vous inviter à venir nous poser des questions, et surtout Dwayne et Manon qui est là, mais elle ne voudra pas. Mais vous pouvez lui poser des questions, c'est l'histoire de la maison, Manon. Donc, en conclusion, je vous dirais, on veut vraiment agir, oui, sur la situation d'itinérance, mais on a vraiment intérêt à être en amont quand il s'agit d'aînés vulnérables. Parce que reloger un aîné en situation d'itinérance, c'est extrêmement compliqué de trouver des logements adaptés, des logements à mobilité réduite, comme on dit, et avec des personnes qui ont vraiment un revenu qui est fixe et extrêmement faible par rapport au marché. Donc, miser sur la mobilisation des différents acteurs, c'est tous les décideurs, les propriétaires privés d'RPA aussi, qui peuvent faire partie de la solution en offrant une partie de leur chambre à des aînés à faible revenu, et tous les professionnels du réseau de la santé, qui sont pour nous, dans la façon dont on travaille, des sentinelles, pour vraiment nous aider à repérer rapidement un aîné vulnérable. Donc, merci beaucoup.
So so while our next speaker gets set up, our last two speakers are from BC. Is anyone here from the West Coast? Whoop, whoop. Yeah. Okay, so how awake are you?
So
A little bit? Okay. Who had to travel more than 4 hours to get here? Oh, thank you for coming. That's amazing. Have you found your slides okay?
no.
No. All right. Let's do that for you.
I love helpful people.
We're trying. We're trying our best.
I just have to say, I feel like I'm with my people. This is amazing to see people on this side of Canada doing this work. Thank you for the work you're doing.
It's a real impossibility to get, that's not you either, to get, to have only 15 minutes for the incredible work that's happening here. Are we going to get the subtitles back? We're going to try.
But hopefully people have the earphones on with the translation, but there is a problem with the subtitles.
So while we get set up, Jenny Conkin is next. And Jenny, coming from BC, is with the Whole House Society. So if you haven't consulted your app yet, to get more information on the speakers, you can do that. You can download it. Or you can probably check the program that's online or in front of you and do some Googling. We're going to work on these subtitles, and hopefully they'll get going in a little bit. Did anyone come from the East Coast to get here? Yeah? Anyone from New Brunswick? Hey, nice. Anyone from Nova Scotia? No, just me? Okay. Newfoundland? Wow. Hey, nice. That's a journey. PEI? Amazing. This is good representation. Okay, who's from Montreal? Oh, beautiful. Okay, that's wonderful. I wish I had the courage of was it Georges? Oh, no, it was Dwayne who decided to take the opportunity to speak in your second language. Meanwhile,
My first language, actually.
Your first language?
Yeah. I just work too much in French.
But you have an accent. It's amazing. Meanwhile, I am just going to be speaking in English. Okay, so it looks like we're all ready to go. Awesome. We'll see how long it lasts. Jenny, over to you.
Thank you. I'm going to use that if that's okay. Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you. I'm short and I feel weird behind a podium. So thank you for sharing these wonderful organizations. I'm not going to share too much about what Whole House does. Very similar, especially to Maison Père. So we partner with nonprofit housing providers to provide on-site community building programs and tenant support services for veterans and seniors and people with disabilities. So our goal is to allow seniors to age well in the right place and have the tools that they need to do that. But my job today is to provide some practical tools that you could take back with you to your organization. So I won't brag too much on how great Whole House is and all the work that we do. Our three pillars are reconnect, rebuild, recenter. And the reason that's important for you, for us, is to provide healthy opportunities to create healthy connections. The rebuild is all about having purpose, and the recenter is all about having a healthy support system. So the way that we do that is we have programs under each pillar, which I'm not going to go into this because we do a lot more programs than this, but it's on our website. But our programs really, the purpose of them is to build healthy community in our housing. And the results of that are that when we build healthy community, we have an over 90% retention rate when we bring a senior in out of homelessness over 5 years at our Veterans Manor. We do bring a lot of our seniors in direct out of homelessness, hospital, or SROs, single room occupancy buildings. And just, I'll share a little bit of why you should listen to me and how successful it is. But we really see a range of results. So we work with seniors who are coming direct out of homelessness, as well as prevention for seniors who are already housed to retain their housing as long as it's healthy and possible for them. And this is my friend Lorraine. That is her real name. This is a real newspaper article where it says her real name. And she, with the help of her doctor, after our programs were in her building for less than 1 year, after 14 years, went off of her antidepressant medication, she shared that she now had a reason to get up in the morning. My family owned SROs in the downtown east side, and when I first started Whole House with my brother, we started these programs. Never did I think that the results would have a ripple effect to me as a landlord. At that time, we were landlords. Our infractions on our building went down by 98%. People took care of their homes. We didn't pour millions of dollars, unfortunately, into repairing our building or having the government step in and help us. it was because of people's sense of community and sense of belonging that they began to take care of their homes, even in SRO. This was in 2013 to 2015, so before the drug crisis began. So 911 calls from an SRO were typically for violence or emergency crisis. Us compared to the 4 surrounding SROs in our neighborhood, we had 90% less calls to 911, on average 24 per year, and the others were ranging between 150 to 250. It's also cheaper. It's a lot more cost effective to have prevention services as well as support services on site for seniors. So we all know the cost of hospitalization, assisted living, homelessness. Our programs cost on average $3 to $10 per person per day. I do believe that we are in much more than a housing crisis. This is a heart crisis. And so when we can help people to heal and have a sense of home and belonging, we're going to see a lot less people falling through the cracks. I'm going to skip through a lot of slides now. 90 minutes to 17 minutes is a big change. I'm going to talk a little bit about boundaries. It's a big buzzword, obviously, in our sector. One thing that we have learned in building our healthy community is to have healthy boundaries. It's really a form of showing love and respect in having the ability to say no when something isn't the right path for our staff as well as for tenants. We do believe in raising the bar when we have an atmosphere of respect and health. People really want to rise to that, and they get to see the results. I really love your chat, Dwayne, about loans. People want to repay that loan because it's a sense of dignity and respect for themselves. And so our community is very grateful when we implement boundaries. So I'm going to teach you our fun little acronym of how to say no. How do you say no to Mrs. C? Mrs. C just turned 100 last week. We had a big birthday party for her. And so this is one of the hardest things. Typically, we hire very empathetic and compassionate people in our sector, right? It's really hard to say no to someone. And so this is an exercise we do with our team. There are times we need to say no. And so first, we don't want someone to feel rejected when they've had the courage to come and ask for something. So what we want to do is acknowledge. So our team will first listen, of course, we want to listen, and acknowledge. That sometimes means repeating the request back to them, but acknowledge that they are asking for something and they have become vulnerable to do that. And then assess, can we help? Or can I help in some way? Maybe it's not the same, but really assess if this is something I need to say no to. The third is providing alternatives. Sometimes somebody will ask, so a very practical example of this would be, can I borrow money? We don't lend money at Holway House. That's not one of our services. And so I'll assess that situation, and I know the answer is no. But what are the alternatives? Can I walk them to the rent bank? Can I look for a service that does provide loans? Can we look at how to budget better for next month and provide those alternatives so the person feels heard, but also so I can do something? And then acceptance. So we really want to make sure that the person that we're serving knows that they've been heard. And often that means for us repeating that back in a way that they acknowledge that we can provide other services for them. Sorry, I'll go back here. The importance of building trust for us. So this, again, sounds very cliche, but one of the biggest things for us is having trust built mutually. So when we work with seniors who have experienced trauma, homelessness, coming into our organization often takes time for them to want to receive our help. So this is our groundwork. It takes time. We really do go by like the tortoise and the hare. We slowly implement programming and support. And so I just encourage you and your staff to understand that taking time will be worth it. When we look at our programming, it has to be very consistent. And so, for example, volunteers for us enhance our programming, but we never rely on volunteers to make that happen. Fairness is a really big one. So something that we've seen is often maybe a team member thinks they're being kind by giving special treatment to one person kind of off to the side. We've really learned that that's a big trust breaker. Somebody else sees that and it's inconsistent. And so again, they feel like the system is against them. And we want to really prevent that. So we do a lot of training with our staff about fairness. And then that consistency, ensuring there's standardization. No matter who's on shift, we're getting that same quality of programming as well as the same treatment for each person. The alien contingency plan, sorry, I'm just gonna grab my water, is our plan that we use to ensure that even if we were all taken by aliens, Whole Way House could continue, and it would be the same services. How many of you have staff who come to you with new program ideas like weekly? One of the things that I found when I started Whole Way House was my staff are very passionate. They're excited. They want to start new programs. And often they're really excellent ideas. Often they are not. Often like, we should have a pony petting zoo. And I'm like, that's a great idea. No. And then I learned that I was crushing their dreams and their hopes of changing people's lives and helping all the homeless seniors. And so I had to create a system where, again, they would feel heard, that they would be excited about sharing program ideas, and also they do come up with incredible, amazing ideas. I can tell you I did not come up with all of our programs. And so we created a program proposal. This is one of the practical applications that we see when people ask to learn about how to do the programming that we do. My staff will, when they come with an idea to my program director, he will say, great, can you fill out an application? And it helps them really think through, like, what would this take? What are the details that I need? Will this be consistent? Is it sustainable? How much will it cost? What are the limitations? Is it accessible to everybody that we serve? How often do we need to do it? And it's a really helpful tool for them to recognize that programs don't just kind of happen, and that it really has to have a budget, that we do want things to be sustainable for people. And then all of our programs that we start, we call them a pilot because that's all of our favorite word, just to ensure that if it doesn't work, then the seniors aren't disappointed when it goes away. These are a few of the easy startup items. So like I said, we have programs ranging from morning coffee programs so that seniors get up in the morning, they have a routine. It's a really cost-effective way to gather together where we can connect with them and they can connect with each other. So we don't only want to connect with our staff to help build that trust, but we want neighbors connecting with each other. It really does create also, we have calendars everywhere at Whole Way House, and it really helps create a sense of purpose and hope that I have a plan, I have somewhere to go tomorrow, I have people to meet, I have something to do. And that really helps people, again, with self-care, hygiene, their cleanliness of their homes. There's a big ripple effect to having a simple morning coffee program that we've seen. One of the programs that we do that is fairly unique is we work with the landlord to have a door tag program. And so it's a really non-invasive way to do a wellness check, essentially. It's completely voluntary, and the senior puts a little string around their doorknob with a little trinket on the end, and then in the morning when they get up, they put it outside of their doorknob. And the staff can go around and check all the doorknobs around noon. If somebody's string isn't out, then we know we can knock and check that they're okay. It really creates a sense of safety. One of the surveys that we did in our research, we found that more than 2/3 of seniors recognize that if something were to happen to them in their homes, if they fell or something more severe, that nobody would know within 48 hours. If you've worked in housing for some time, unfortunately, we often do find people who haven't survived. And so this is a really simple way to create safety, but also a sense of security for each senior, knowing that somebody's looking out for them without having to knock on their door or invade their privacy. We also find games and puzzles as a great way, obviously, to keep our brains active. It's a great way to have fun. Again, so cost effective. It doesn't take a lot of staff coverage. We set it up. We always have puzzles out in our amenities spaces, especially for people who might not feel comfortable yet in a social setting. We'll often find them at the puzzle table. They don't have to feel lonely in their homes. They can still be around people socializing. And then I love our exercise classes. I often join in. I'll hear them doing exercise from my office. I'm like, I gotta go. And there's 15 to 20 minutes. My staff follow a video specializing for seniors. It's really simple, obviously, with YouTube. And this is, again, a great way to visually check in. We can ensure that people are getting to their doctor's appointments if they need them. A great medium to help seniors stay active. Okay, So if you've read Brene Brown's book, which I'll talk a lot about in my next session at 3:45, clear is kind. We are really intentional about the language that we use in our signage, about the atmosphere that we create in our buildings. Again, we partner with landlords. We are not the landlord, so we want to also break down the barrier that says we are here to be the authoritarian in your life. We're actually here to be a support system. And so this big picture helps us to create healthy community in the housing. I'll give you a really simple example. There's a sign above the sink in the common space that says, thank you for doing your dishes. When we first got to the building, it used to say, stop leaving your dirty dishes in the sink. I'm not your mother. I quickly asked the landlord if I could take that sign down and replace it with a sign that said, thank you so much for doing your dishes. It doesn't, like subconsciously, it doesn't feel good to know that people are expecting you to do the wrong thing all the time. And so there's already a sense of contention. My landlord thinks I'm sloppy or that I always leave dishes in the sink. It creates a sense of negativity. So we did that. And then one day I'm sitting in my office and I hear a gentleman kind of toss a dish in the sink and say, how am I supposed to do that when there's nothing to clean it with? And I was like, yeah, that's really fair. That's a great point. And so one of my staff know if there's not a clean sponge by the sink, that is a fireable offense at Holway House. We continuously are changing our sponges, making sure the soap is part of our daily tasks and routines, so that if we're asking something of someone, they have the actual tools that they need to be successful. How many know it feels awful when you're trying to do the right thing and you can't do it because, again, the system is stacked against you? And then we're really big on removing distractions or temptations. So these are simple things like keeping our cupboards closed. Maybe someone's struggling with needing something. We always have a blessing closet where people can do shopping or have a pantry. But we just want to remove that sense of temptation or opportunity that might create. We always try to remove the have less correction and be more on the proactive side. So if we can create an environment where we don't have to correct people, we have really clear signage, really clear expectations. We have signs that say, this is an environment of respect and those types of things, but it's already clear what's expected of us so that we don't have to correct people. Guys, I did this really fast. These are our guiding principles. So I didn't go through all of these, but as I said, for us, we try to create an environment of support versus pressure. Obviously, always having a trauma-informed approach. Boundaries are really big for us, and not just as a buzzword, but in practicality. We always believe for the best, but we prepare for the worst. Fairness, I would say, is our key factor in order to create consistency. And then we want to set our residents up for success. We believe in empowering versus enabling. And that means that we want to provide a hand up versus a handout. So giving people the tools that they need to be successful, and then having that positive perspective around. As I said, I started Holway House when I was working in my family's SRO, and most of the men that I worked with had come directly out of incarceration or were in and out of incarceration, and I just noticed the change, the switch of the feeling of I expect and I believe the best in you. I know that you're trying to do the right thing, and it just required that support system. So we continue this on working with seniors, and we find the same. These are just some of my amazing community members. This is my friend Allison from Senior Services Society, and she has an amazing program. If you want to introduce her. Thank you, Jenny. Nobody can wave their hand at me.
You did a great job. Just a reminder that we had expected 3 presentations today and wound up with 4, and everyone is crushing it. You're doing such a good job of distilling your really, really, really hard work into just a few minutes. So I'm hoping to get this up on the screen in a moment. We'll get there. Nope. Nope, that is not what I want to do. Nope.
Press here.
Let me press the minimize one instead. And the subtitles are...
Yeah, the subtitles, I'll have to look after.
All right, we'll look into the subtitles. We'll make sure we fix that going forward. Okay, so over to Allison, who's going to be our final presenter, and then hopefully we'll have a good 15 minutes for discussion afterwards. So Allison, thank you.
Thanks. Well, thank you, everyone. And as Jenny said, her program is so critical. And in the absence of that program, people come to us. My name is Allison. I'm the CEO of Senior Services Society of BC. And our work is supporting seniors who are precariously housed or are homeless, often for the first time. So most of our clients are between the ages of 60 and 90, and they have been housed permanently until that point. My intention was to talk about who homeless seniors are that we work with. I think I'll just go through that really quickly and focus more on the program itself that we're delivering. Numbers, no surprise to anybody in this room. The numbers of seniors who are homeless has increased exponentially. In BC, our point-in-time count showed in 2023 the seniors population had increased 5 times in the previous 10 years, and that has continued to increase. We also have an additional challenge in BC because we have no ministry for seniors in BC, and in the more recent government federally, there is no minister. So without a person responsible and a budget, it becomes a really difficult task. So thank you all for being here and to continue to do this work. This is our dream. This is our hope for seniors, to be able to be independent, have agency, and to support them on their path, and to be able to access supports as and when they need it. Here's some of the challenges. I've kind of broken it high level into 3 buckets. Financial, most of you probably know some of these. Cost of living, loss of a loved one, either through divorce and or through death. And we're seeing a lot of divorces for people who have been married for many, many years, particularly started in COVID and has continued to increase. Elder abuse, financially, emotionally, often with their loved ones. We've seen that a lot with parents who have been brought to support their kids and grandchildren, and all of a sudden find themselves deposited outside the entrance of an emergency room when they're no longer wanted. Taxes and timing, a common one. Also for seniors who have a little bit of nest egg, when they want to transition or transfer that asset early or provide a power of attorney, find themselves with their adult children happy to take care of the funding and not so happy to take care of the kid, the senior. The gap between provincial and federal funding. In 2018, we had about 22% of the seniors in our that came to our agency caught between provincial and federal funding. They were made homeless on their 65th birthday because they were not connected to the federal pension. Happy to say, with the work we've been doing and other advocacy, we had 2 seniors in that gap in the last 2 years. It's not perfect, but really better. Assessments, even for seniors with a home, a strata that they own, with the cost of modernization and improvements, they get an assessment, and they don't have enough income to get a loan. So quite often they end up with a fire sale, and that money doesn't last for long. So they end up having to look for rental units, and that's something that's quite foreign to them. Loss of employment, we've seen that trend tick up, but particularly in this crazy environment right now globally. More and more restructuring, and of course the senior gets shown the door. Housing, the physical housing pieces. Not just having adaptable places, but actual universal design. Because quite often a senior that we see can't get to the laundry room in their building. They begin to have a bit of an odor on them. The landlord thinks that they're probably not the right fit for the building, and they have a crisis eviction. Nothing to do with them. They just can't access their laundry, and they don't have that declined health level to be able to get home health. So there's a bit of a barrier, and it's just system related. For those who may be familiar with co-ops, quite often co-ops have a model of housing that is for a family, and as a senior ages in place, and this is not true of all, I must say, but the ones that we see, the seniors we see, have been in a co-op all their lives, have been volunteering, but when they can no longer contribute or they are overhoused because their children have left, they get leveraged with a $500 to $1,000 payment every month, and that is a fast track to homelessness. City-specific shelters, as my first picture showed, just not suitable for seniors because they are mats on the floor or bunk beds. health. The one area that you'd never think is the entry point for homelessness is something that we see a lot. Attachment to health for seniors who don't have a doctor and begin to show signs of decline, forget maybe their keys 3-4 times, and then the landlord thinks, well, if they're forgetting their keys, what else are they forgetting? So they're a little bit concerned, and that forces a crisis eviction. Exit from health is another big challenge. 2 years ago, we had 4 calls in 1 week. A senior went into hospital for a stubbed toe, ended up with having gangrene set in and an amputation. 3 months later, he's discharged and asked to leave. He's been given his discharge notice at noon, and he calls his landlord to say he's ready to come back home. And the landlord thought he was dead. He relet the unit and got rid of all his stuff. We had 4 calls in 1 week just on that. So that was a surprise entrance to homelessness. Digital access points. Through COVID, we saw that a lot with seniors who wanted to get onto a Zoom call and they had no smartphone to be able to access a strata meeting or an AGM that was going to have a leverage of a multi-million-dollar asset or charge. So that is something that's really prohibitive, digital access. Cost of medications, this is particularly true in BC. Other provinces may have a challenge, but most provinces cover X amount of medications. And in BC, we have about 43 exclusions, which other regions don't have. So that's something we're working on. Multiple levels of care, when 2 partners deteriorate at a different level, often the person who's more independent finds themselves homeless because the other partner has the care and the cost of living attached to it. Seniors integrate or intersect with so many systems, and the challenges that we see with seniors who are homeless are the ones who are falling through the gaps. I'm going to fast forward. This is our vision, a city-specific, senior-centric support for homeless seniors or for seniors in general. And that's our vision, and that's what we've been working on. The SHINE program that I'm here to talk about today, Seniors Housing Information and Navigation Ease, has been something we started about 6 years ago, and it was intended to be predominantly navigation services. And as we identified needs, as I shared with you, we tried to advocate for solutions and address them. Last fiscal year, we were able to, through this program, protect or prevent homelessness and house seniors, 6,025 of them. And the funding for that program came from our provincial government. It was a one-time grant, and that's something that is also a challenge, a one-time grant for the last 6 years. And we've been able to expand this work to be in, as of this month, in 13 cities in the province, 2 in every region. 2 of the outcomes, and I'll share that with you before I go into the model itself, is that today's the end of October. So as of this month, our agency, who is not a landlord, but a support agency like Jenny's, has had 19 consecutive months where we've been offered more affordable housing units for low-income seniors than low-income seniors who need housing. If you can imagine that in this environment, here or anywhere else, and in BC particularly, but the cost of housing, that is a real surprise. The other positive outcome we've seen is that every senior that we've placed through our continuum of housing has stayed permanently housed, has not become unhoused. So those are 2 successes that we're very proud of, and I'll tell you more about what we do and how we do it. So this is the program in its fullest form. We started with navigation, which is the second stream, and over the last 6 years, we've built it up like a Lego, adding pieces with partners. We don't do all the work, but we've been able to add all of those pieces to it, and that is our hope. This model, with the exception of the Better at Home program in the center, which is funded through the health authorities through United Way, all of those pieces cost a total of $350,000 for a city that is about 100,000. And supporting seniors who are in that city to be housed if they are precariously housed, or to be able to transition them to permanent housing. and it's fully scalable. We currently have it, as I said, in 13 cities. Some are cities with 5,000 people, and there are super cities the size of Vancouver and Surrey with 600,000 people. So it's a scalable model, and if you are interested, I can happily share more information later. These are all the partners that we have across the province. Some of the results, I've just got 2 slides. I know they're busy, and I'm sure the slides are shared later. But this shows you the success rate and the evaluation, both with the clients and with the partners last year. Okay, and I'm going to see if this will play.
When you lose your home, it feels like you're losing everything. 1 in 10 seniors are homeless or at risk. Seniors deserve better. A message from the broadcasters of BC and the Senior Services Society.
So that's really trying to keep it short so that you have a chance for questions. What we've focused on has been this video that I showed you right at the end was our attempt at creating awareness. One of the biggest challenges we have is every time we have a conversation with people at different levels, it is really surprising to hear, oh, seniors and they're homeless or they have a need to be helped to be housed. It's a bit of a surprise. So I do think awareness is one of the biggest challenges, despite all of the other pathways we've talked about. And we've been creating our own little ripples with our social media. We're a small agency, a $1.2 million agency, if you can imagine that. And we've been able to do this incrementally over the last 20 years. Fortunately, last year, we were recognized with a humanitarian award, and that gave us $1 million of airtime on all the TV stations and radio stations in BC. And this product that I just shared is one of the videos that I've been playing for the last year, and hopefully at the end of a year, people will understand that seniors desperately are in need, and they need to do something. Thank you.
So much, Allison. Can folks hear me okay? Okay, thanks to your expert work in squishing down your presentations, we have a whole 12 minutes for some questions. So I'm going to roam around. If you've got a question, just put up your hand. I will come to you. Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe a quick who you are and then who your question is for, and go for it.
Donc, c'est Myriam Martin. Je suis intervenante à l'organisme Diogène au service Sentinelle. Ma question est pour la Maison du Père, pour principalement la résidence GA de Sèvres. Je me demandais si, en dehors des soins médicaux, de la vie communautaire, est-ce qu'il y a aussi un accompagnement psychosocial pour éviter justement de l'instabilité, donc qui peut avoir, mettons, des enjeux de santé mentale, comportementale, d'encombrement. Est-ce qu'il y a du soutien à ce niveau-là aussi dans ces résidences-là?
Oui, j'ai besoin de... OK. So, oui, on a les intervenants psychosociaux qui accompagnent nos résidents. Alors, et aussi, en plus, on est bien connecté avec les CIUS, les CLSC. Là, si ça a besoin d'être approfondi avec une équipe qui est plus spécialisée ou à approfondir là-dedans. Là, oui. Et aussi, ça arrive qu'on appelle à les services de Diogène aussi là, pour les autres. Voilà, ça, ouais.
I saw one here, and then please put up your hand again if you'd like to go next so I can make sure to find you.
Hi, my name is Jessica Sherman. I work here in Montreal in Health and Social Services in a sort of kind of navigator role. My question is again for Maison du Père and Oldbury Mission. Je vais comme le demander en français, mais comme en anglais, parce que c'est comme en français la présentation. Mais vous avez parlé de le non-paiement de loyer. C'était un des facteurs majeurs pour l'éviction. Puis je suis curieuse, est-ce que vous avez des données sur pourquoi c'était un non-paiement de loyer. Est-ce que c'était en raison de perte de revenus ou que le loyer a trop augmenté ou est-ce que c'est des rénovations ou est-ce qu'on regarde aussi comme des pertes cognitives? Donc, je suis juste curieuse si vous avez des données sur pourquoi il y a comme le non-paiement de loyer. C'est-tu assez clair? Merci.
Merci beaucoup pour votre question. C'est vrai que je suis passée en plus très vite sur les données, là, les espèces de camembert, comme on dit. Effectivement, alors on a consigné pour les non-paiements de loyer quand c'est pour des raisons financières. Par contre, on a aussi consigné tout ce qui était rénoviction. Il y a des données sur tout ce qui est accumulation aussi, conflit de voisinage. Voilà, il y a vraiment plusieurs données qu'on a consignées, mais c'est vrai que pour le non-paiement de loyer, est-ce que c'est dû à une perte d'emploi ou est-ce que c'est dû à un prix de loyer qu'on a augmenté? Ça, non, on ne l'a pas fait, mais c'est une très bonne suggestion aussi de creuser un petit peu cette donnée-là. Merci.
So efficient. One more question.
Juste,
We have another answer. Go ahead.
Oui, juste pour ajouter aussi, c'est les imprévus financiers qui arrivent souvent aussi, là, que la personne qui, oui, est capable de payer son loyer, mais il serré, un imprévu arrive, un frais de dentiste, un auto qui brise, et puis ils sacrifient leur loyer pour payer les choses. Et aussi, il faut dire, les personnes souvent sont isolées, les personnes aînées. Parce qu'ils sont isolés, ils n'ont pas la force de battre contre un propriétaire qui veut faire une éviction pas nécessairement légale. Il veut pas, même s'ils ont le droit de battre, ils n'ont pas la force de battre. Puis sans avoir les amis, la famille en arrière qui les aident, ça coûte.
Thank you.
All right, thanks to all three of you. So my question's for Alison. You touched briefly on the fact that the city's shelters were unfitted for seniors, and I wanted to know, do you think like it's doomed to be that way, or are there things that a city could do or should do to improve their services for the seniors, or is it better to have like entirely separate services for that specifically fit their needs? Sorry.
Thank you. That is actually a wonderful question. And the model that Shine has 4 units of temporary housing or rapid access housing per city, or for that group of 100,000 people, which allows that flow space. And that's what we have currently embedded. So it's 4 units with a door, so that seniors feel safe, because quite often the traditional shelters, while they serve a really good purpose, the seniors that go into that space, particularly the group we're talking about, could feel preyed on, and often the shelter operators tell us, please don't put seniors here. So we have 4 units of independent housing. They're studios, and the first one is the rapid access, and the person is there from anywhere from 2 to 3 days up to a month, and they get meals and everything, because sometimes they have no paperwork, like the example from hospital. And in the case of those, once they get their paperwork in order, they can go into the temporary housing, which is 3 to 6 months. And at that point, basically, whatever the pathway was to homelessness is addressed by the case manager. So when they are referred into permanent housing, that has already been addressed, so it's sustainable for them.
Can I add to that, though? So the seniors that you're supporting there are independent seniors.
Yes.
We often find coming into Holway House, seniors who are not as independent or have barriers, struggle with addiction, mental health issues, and they don't qualify for that type of housing. So we've asked our city in Vancouver to create senior-specific shelters where there is safety, and because even seniors just have different needs, and so we want to address those needs separately. We helped do some design work for a shelter that's attached to the hospital, so that if they're being discharged direct to, into shelter, unfortunately, that it actually meets their needs, so they can be discharged from hospital. And like you were saying, it's simple things like not having bunk beds or floor mats, but also having caseworkers who can match their needs, which are very specific, and they're very vulnerable, very, very vulnerable.
Peut-être un petit commentaire si c'est possible. On a l'impression de parler de la population aînée comme étant à partir de l'âge de 65 ans et plus. Ce qu'on se rend compte en vérité, vous le savez mieux que moi, on identifie la personne aînée à partir de l'âge de 50 ans. Au niveau des vulnérabilités que cette personne va retrouver, on se retrouve avec une personne qui a vieilli de façon prématurée. Donc on offre ces services auprès des populations aînées, mais on inclut cette population de 50 ans et plus, ce que le gouvernement ne reconnaît pas.
We've got another question. I've got a sprint for this one. We may only have time for the one, depending. So we've got 4 minutes left.
Hi, from Vancouver Island. My question is for us to look at is what would you suggest we all do to highlight the importance of the increasing seniors that are finding themselves into homelessness? I find culturally we are not really valuing what our elders have brought to this society.
Okay, my one-liner is we have to make seniors sexy. I was like, there is no funding stream for seniors, and it is not the sexy topic in the news. They don't tend to be out there with picket signs. So the raising awareness that, like in Vancouver, 22% of our homeless population make up are seniors. Nobody knows that, and when they find out, they're like, why aren't we doing something about that? But when we go to apply for funding, there is no specific funding stream for seniors, and that, I think, is atrocious. So I think raising awareness and advocating for a funding stream.
To me, the pain is felt at the city level. So finding a sponsor at the city level, a city councillor or municipality that will support it. Because really, there is nothing between the senior and federal government, really, that is dedicated. So the city feels it closest, and if they can raise their voice, we have in BC the Union of BC Municipalities. I'm sure every other province has that. Trying to get on that docket and making the case for the cities because they feel it, they have it, and that's their community.
Je pense qu'il y a une politique qui a été construite autour de la jeunesse et il faut continuer de rajouter au niveau des efforts, au niveau de l'itinérance et de la prévention auprès de la population jeune. Il n'y a rien qui a été fait de façon aussi circonscrite du côté des personnes vieillissantes. Donc si on pouvait travailler à reproduire les stratégies qui ont été développées au niveau de la jeunesse auprès des populations moins marchandables, si vous voulez, qui est, en parlant de sexiness ou autre chose, pour reconnaître la valeur d'une personne âgée ou vieillissante à l'intérieur de notre société.
Je pense je rejoins tout ce qui a été dit, mais je voudrais juste donner un exemple. On a sorti, je pense, l'année dernière, il y avait le moratoire pour que les personnes de 65 ans et plus ne soient pas expulsées. En théorie, c'est une très bonne initiative pour préserver le logement d'une personne de 65 ans et plus, mais dans les faits, de nos expériences au tribunal au TAL, il y a peut-être 10% qui vont utiliser ce droit-là. Donc, il faut qu'il y ait une cohérence entre de belles initiatives légales théoriques qui puissent réellement s'appliquer pour la personne qui en a besoin, la personne aînée qui en a besoin. Donc, il manque beaucoup de cohérence et de planification applicable et vérifiable aussi.
Okay, I want to respect time after feeling like I disrespected it for the last hour and a half by forcing you all through. But maybe before I conclude, a round of applause for our speakers today. We heard about some solutions at scale here in Montreal, like some real numbers. It's incredible how to build communities in addition to homes, really practical, tangible solutions, many of which I wrote down from you, Jenny, as well as Allison. That video is going to stick with me. Thinking of of the elders in my life who deserve so much better. So thank you all for joining. Next up is lunch and the Bare Naked Ladies, I guess. So we have the plenary happening at 12:30, but from 12 to 12:30, you can go back out to the front space in front of the plenary to get some food. And you can take it and eat it inside while you listen to Stephen Page. All right, thanks everyone.